Winter is coming, so what better way to start it than by creating this nice text effect. Hi there everyone, my name is Andrei Marius, I've been working in Illustrator for over 10 years, and in this Envato Tuts Plus tutorial, I'll put my experience to use as I show you step by step how you can create this snow and ice text effect using Adobe Illustrator. To complete this tutorial, you will need some fir branches from this illustration and this font. Both of these assets come from Envato Elements, so make sure to check out Envato Elements, where with a simple subscription you can get unlimited access to millions of creative digital assets, such as music, graphics, photos, fonts, and many more. You can subscribe right now with the link in the description. Let's open Illustrator to create a new document. Select pixels from this drop-down menu. Set the width to 850 and the height to 600 pixels. Make sure that the color mode is set to RGB and the resolution to 300 pixels per inch. And then click this button to create your new document. Press Ctrl and minus to zoom out a bit. And before we start the work on the design, let's open all the panels that will be used throughout this tutorial. All you have to do is go to Window in the menu bar and open the Appearance panel, the Brushes panel, the Color panel, the Gradient panel, the Layers panel, the Swatches panel, and don't forget the Character panel. Once you're set, start by selecting the Rectangle tool from your toolbar. Select the stroke and remove the color. Double-click the Fill color and replace it with 37. 154 and 223. Click on your canvas to create an 870 by 620 pixels shape. Keep this shape selected. Move to the control panel. Make sure that the alignment is set to artboard. And just click these two buttons to easily center your rectangle. Keep it selected. Move to the Appearance panel to add a second fill using this button. Make sure that this new fill is selected and simply click this radial gradient button to apply a radial gradient for your new fill. Let's focus on the gradient panel to adjust this gradient and start with this gradient slider. Just double click it, set the color mode to RGB, lower the opacity to 0%, and replace the color with 37, 154, and 223. Move to this other gradient slider, again double click it, set the color mode to RGB and replace the color with 2, 98 and 185. Now switch to the gradient tool so you can adjust this gradient. First stretch it like this, then press Ctrl and minus to zoom out a bit, squeeze your gradient like this, move it in the top of the shape, stretch it a bit more like this, and then press Ctrl and plus to zoom back on your shape. Let's add a new fill using this same button. For this one, set the color to black. Lower the opacity of this new fill to 30% and change the blending mode to soft light. And then go to Effect, Artistic and Film Grain. Drag these sliders to 20, 0 and 10. Click OK to apply the effect. And this will be your background. Moving to the text, start by selecting the Type tool. Focus on the Character panel to select that knick-knack font which you got from Envato Elements. Increase the font size to 180. And then just click on your artboard to type in Winter. Press the Escape key to easily switch to the Selection tool. Move your text roughly in the center of the artboard. Remove the current text color using this non-swatch button, and then add a new fill for your text using the same button. Keep this new fill selected, apply a linear gradient, and set the angle to 90 degrees, and then focus on the gradient sliders to adjust your gradient. Start with this one, double click it and replace the color with 229, 240 and 241. Move to this other gradient slider, increase the opacity back to 100% and replace the color with 119, 212 and 252. Click twice on the gradient bar to add two new gradient sliders. Select the first one, set the location to 30% and replace the color with 163, 239 and 252. And for this other gradient slider, let's set the location to 60%. And for the color, enter 205, 242 and 251. Now make sure that you have this fill still selected and go to Effect, Stylize and Inner Glow. Change the blending mode to Overlay, lower the opacity to 30% and increase the blur value to 15 pixels. Replace this color with 8, 59 and 148. Click OK and OK to apply this effect. And then return to the Appearance panel to add a second fill for your text. Keep it selected and let's adjust the applied gradient. Start with this one and set the color to 205, 242 and 251. Move to the left one, adjust the location to 80% and replace the color with 163, 239 and 252. Continue with the third one, set the location to 20% and replace the color with 70, 182 and 253. And for the leftmost one, let's just replace the color with 0, 129 and 221. Once you're done, go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. Lower both of these scale values to 99.6%. Set the vertical movement to 0.5 pixels. Enter 30 copies, and click OK to apply this effect. Reselect this fill, and this time let's apply an inner glow effect. For this one, change the blending mode to color burn, lower the opacity to 15% and the blur to 10 pixels. Remember to replace this color with 1, 60 and 150. And then you can click OK to apply the effect. Now let's drag this fill below the other one, which will give you this nice 3D effect. And then add a new fill for your text. Keep it selected and let's adjust the applied gradient. You'll need something simpler, so just click and drag these two sliders to remove them. Double click this one and replace the color with 2, 98 and 185. And for this other gradient slider, let's set the color to 8, 59 and 148. Now return to the Appearance panel to lower the opacity of this fill to 60% and change the blending mode to Soft Light. And then go again to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. Again, you need to set both of these scale values to 99.6%. Set the vertical movement to 0.5 and the copies to 30. Click OK to apply the effect. Reselect it. And this time go to Effect, Distort and Glass. Set the distortion to 20, the smoothness to 2. Make sure that you have frosted selected from this drop-down menu. Increase the scaling to 100%. And then you can click OK to apply this effect. Return to the Appearance panel and let's add another fill. For this one, let's use a flat color and set it to 8, 59 and 148. Lower the opacity of this new fill to 50% and change the blending mode to Soft Light. And then apply that same glass effect. Now to add a subtle highlight to these edges, let's reselect this bottom fill from the Appearance panel and add a new fill on top of it. Let's change the blending mode of this new fill to overlay, and then move to the gradient panel to adjust the applied gradient. Remove these two gradient sliders, and then double click this gradient slider to replace the color with white. And for this other gradient slider, let's set the color to 227, 252, and 255. Now go to Effect, Restore and Transform. Set both of these scale sliders to 99.5. Increase the vertical movement to just 1 pixel, and click OK to apply this subtle highlight on the edges of your text. Let's also add a shadow for this text, so return to the Appearance panel to add a new fill. Drag it in the bottom of the panel and replace the linear gradient with a flat color. Let's set this color to 2, 98, and 185. And then go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to -5 pixels. Click OK to apply this effect. Make sure that this fill is still selected, and go to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. This time you need to lower both of these scale values to 85%. Increase the vertical movement to 25 pixels. And then you can click OK to apply this effect. Now go to Effect, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Set the radius to 30 pixels and click OK to apply this blur. Return to the Appearance panel and click this button to duplicate your selected fill. Select the blur that's applied for this new fill and remove it. And then lower the opacity of this new fill to 5%. Now that you've got your eyes text effect, you'll need another copy of this text to add the snow effect. Press Ctrl C and then Ctrl F to add a copy of this text in front. And with this copy selected, you can press the D hotkey, which will replace the current appearance settings with the default ones. You can remove the stroke color, select just the fill, and go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to 40 pixels. Click OK to apply this effect. Press Ctrl and the left square bracket key to move this text below the other one. And then go to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. Lower both of these scale values to 80%. Drag the Move Vertical slider to 25 pixels. Click OK to apply this new effect. And now go to Effect, Stylize, and Inner Glow. Change the blending mode to normal. Increase the opacity to 50% and the blur to 30 pixels. Replace this color with 163, 239, and 252. Click OK and OK to apply this effect, and then add a second fill for your text. Keep it selected. Let's apply a linear gradient. Make sure that the angle is set to 90 degrees. Remove these two gradient sliders. Double click this one and replace the color with black. And then double click this other gradient slider and replace the color with 227, 252, and 255. Now go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to 15 pixels and click OK to apply the effect. Reselect this fill and go to Effect, Restore and Transform, and Transform. For this effect, let's lower both of these scale values to 80%. Drag the Move Vertical slider to 25 pixels. Click OK. Reselect this fill and this time go to Effect, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. lower the radius to 20 pixels, click OK, return to the appearance panel so you can lower the opacity of this fill to 40%, and then duplicate it using this same button. Select the blur effect that's applied for this new fill and remove it. Lower the opacity of this new fill to 10%, and then reselect this bottom fill to apply some drop shadow effects. All you have to do is go to Effect, Stylize and Drop Shadow. Change the blending mode to normal, lower the opacity to 15%, set the offset values to 0 and 5, lower the blur to 0 pixels, replace this color with 1, 60 and 150. Click OK to apply this effect, and then go again to Effect, Stylize and Drop Shadow to apply a second drop shadow effect. For this one, increase the opacity to 60%, the Y offset to 10 pixels, and the blur to 15 pixels, and then you can click OK to apply this second drop shadow effect. Let's continue and add some icicles for this text effect. Select the rectangle tool from your toolbar, just click on your artboard to create a 10 by 120 pixels shape. Press Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on this new shape, and then focus on the layers panel. Hold down the Alt key, click the target icon that stands for your eyes text, and simply drag it on top of the target icon that stands for your new shape. This way you can easily transfer the appearance settings from one object to another. Let's focus on the appearance panel to make some changes, because you won't need all of these settings. First of all, you need to select these 4 fills and remove them. Select the transform effect that's applied for this middle fill and also remove it. Select this bottom fill and reverse the gradient, and then open the inner glow effect. Change the blending mode to color burn, lower the opacity to 15% and the blur to 10. Remember to replace this color with 1, 60 and 150. Click OK to apply these changes, and then open this glass effect. Just lower the distortion to 10, click OK, and then open this other glass effect. Again, lower the distortion to 10 and increase the smoothness to 4. Click OK, and continue with the direct selection tool. Use it to select these 2 points and go to Object, Path and Average. Check this box and click OK to turn your rectangle into a triangle. Now return to the appearance panel and select the entire path to make sure that the effect which you're about to add will affect the entire path, not just a fill. Go to Effect, Distort and Transform and Roughen. Check these 2 boxes, set the size to 1 and the detail to 15, and click OK to apply this effect. Now that you've got your icicle, let's use it to decorate the text. Press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on your entire design. Use the selection tool to drag your icicle on top of the text. You can hold down the Z hotkey and zoom in on this area so you can take a closer look. You can use again the direct selection tool to adjust this path a little. Maybe by holding down the Alt key, you can click and drag a copy and scale this copy so you can have a smaller icicle. Place it next to the bigger one. And once you're happy with the end result, you can continue to use this technique and decorate the rest of your text with more icicles until you end up with something that's somewhat similar with this. Once you're done, select the ellipse tool from your toolbar and use it to create a 20 pixel circle. Keep this shape selected, fill it with black, and click this new brush button from the brushes panel to save your selected shape as a scatter brush. Select random for size, spacing and scatter. Set these values between 30 and 100, between 1 and 500, and between minus and plus 1000. Remember to check things from this drop-down menu to make sure that you will be able to recolor your brush, and then click OK to save your scatter brush inside the brushes panel. Now that you've got your brush, feel free to remove this shape and continue with the brush tool. Make sure that your scatter brush is selected, and let's draw a smooth path across the artboard, somewhat like this. Select this new path using the selection tool, set the stroke color to white, lower the opacity of this stroke to 20% and change the blending mode to soft light, and then go to Effect, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Set the radius to 5 pixels, click OK to apply this blur, and move to the Layers panel to drag this path in the bottom of the panel, right on top of this background shape. Reselect the brush tool to add a second path on top of your text. You can easily select this new path from the Layers panel, increase the stroke opacity to 60%, and then return to your design to add one more path, somewhat like this. Again, select it from the Layers panel, decrease the stroke weight to 0.5, open the Gaussian blur effect that's already applied for this path and lower the radius to 3 pixels. Click OK to apply this new effect, and then select this background shape from the Layers panel, press Ctrl C to copy it, and Ctrl Shift and V to add a copy on top. Focus on the Layers panel to remove these two fills, select the remaining one, change the blending mode to soft light, and then just apply a radial gradient. Set both of these gradient colors to black. Make sure that this one has the opacity set to 0. And then use the gradient tool to adjust your gradient like this. First stretch it, then press Ctrl A- to zoom out a bit, then squeeze your gradient like this, and then stretch it a bit more like this. Now you can press Ctrl and click outside your artboard to deselect this shape. Let's press Ctrl M+ to zoom back on the entire design. And for the final touches, you'll need some fur branches from this illustration. Let's download this file and open it in Illustrator. Select this group and press Ctrl C to copy it, and then return to your winter text effect and press Ctrl V to paste this group. Press Ctrl M+ to zoom in on this group. Let's scale it and rotate it. Place it around this area, and then drag a copy, rotate it, and place it around this point. And then add one more copy. Again, let's rotate it. Use the reflect tool to flip this group. Rotate it a bit more and place it like this. And when you're happy with the look of these groups, all you have to do is drag them below this eyes text effect. With this final touch, your design is complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Remember to hit that like button as it helps me know that I did a good job. Subscribe if you aren't already, and don't forget to click the little bell icon to be notified of any new tutorials. I'm Andrei Marius, and I'll see you in the next video.